today's Link and Learn is covering off budgeting for marketing in 2023. And I just wanted to put this out there right at the start about the fact that actually things are going a little bit pear-shaped. We are the week after the economic turmoil in the UK, the emergency mini budget that has now kind of, sort of reverted back and the rest of it. So I think basically people forecasting are saying, well, I don't think, I know, people forecasting are saying it's going to be tough times. And in the past, it was a bit of a saying, really, that as soon as things got hard, the things that would be cut were the marketing, the PR and the advertising budgets. But in tough times, even if you have to modify what you're doing, my biggest recommendation and so planning for next year is not to cut everything, but to be really smart about how you're spending your marketing budget. So I'm just putting that up front. As I go through these slides, there are a few things that if you think, oh God, yes, I do need to bring that up with my senior team, I'm more than happy to come in and have a conversation. So just get in contact and I will have a conversation with them. But one of these points, this point here, is kind of one of them. Don't just cut everything and think, oh my God, everything's tough. Actually, there are really, really big benefits to continuing with your marketing in a very strategic way when things are hard. So first things first, before you do anything for future planning, is think about the future business aims. I don't just mean, checking that we've got all the marketing materials in because sales have demanded it, or that we just want sales for sales sake. Not every business has really deep pockets. Not every business is Apple and can throw marketing cash at everything. So you really need to think about what marketing aims are going to align best with what those business aims are. And so that means getting the buy-in for actually the business owner or the board or the senior stakeholders who, know the direction that they want to go with the business. Those leaders who are kind of, looking ahead, because marketing as a term, that only sales is only really one part of it. Marketing has so many different facets, and your organization might want to do a massive recruitment campaign, for example, or it might want to go into a different market completely. And so the marketing activity that you are going to be putting into your plan obviously needs to dovetail in with those aims. Rather than doing just the same old and then actually getting the flack for afterwards of like, but we wanted to be over here. So have those really strategic conversations. If you're in an organization where you feel that basically marketing is kind of, a bit further down the rung than perhaps sales or other kind of departments, then, sort of speak out. You need to kind of raise it. Marketing is a board level discussion. It needs to all of the strategy needs to be worked out at that level for everything else to sort of filter down underneath. So shout for your marketing budget, but not just shout like I should all it, but you really need to make your argument why you want it, and you need to show and demonstrate that actually the money you're going to be spending is actually going to be taking that business forward in the direction it needs to be going. So ask what the business future aims are, and then basically align your marketing strategy with those. Now, when you're doing your marketing planning and your budgeting with it, it's a case of, I always think of looking forwards and backwards. So you need to review and learn from it when you're doing your planning. So when you're looking at your marketing strategy, have a think about how you can make the most of your budget with it. So there's lots of different elements, and we'll cover off some of those things in this in these slides. But when stuff gets tough, and when we're in a really, really, really fluctuating, let's put it that way, economic situation, it's even more important to have a really, really tight focus and have really thought strategically about that spend. So before you do anything for future planning, do an in-depth analysis of your current marketing efforts. Have a look and be really honest about what is working, what's not working. Have a look and see if there were things mistakes that you made this year. Could you have got more value by increasing your spend in certain with certain channels or with certain activities? And also, what, if you're totally honest, could you stop paying for because it's not delivering the results that you expect? Now, this is always, again, a real, can be quite a contentious point, because actually you need to own your marketing budget. And I think marketing is one of those areas in an organization where people can steal your budget like that. All of a sudden you can be, well, we've got to be at this event. Well, but actually for this event, we need business cards, or we need some leaflets. In fact, we need more than one leaflet. We need several leaflets. We need branded gifts. We need, lots of other things, which unless you've actually really thought about that up front, it's just gone, and actually somebody else is taking that spend from you. So brazen it out, really do your homework of what has worked when you're thinking proactively about what you're going to do in 2023, and stand your ground. If it's not getting the results, if you don't feel like you can stand in a meeting and say, we're not doing that, and this is why, and you haven't got the backup, then you need to go and do some more homework. So, you really need to spend some time. And I think some people think, marketing, they can be quite glib about marketing. They can see it as, they've said, used to say about, it'd be the people in charge of the colouring pens and the kind of, it's all about logo and branding. And logo and branding is important, very important. But actually, your whole marketing strategy is important. So you need to really, really spend some time with it. It's not something that can be done really, really flippantly, can't be done quickly. It needs time to be done well. And I should say again, if you're thinking, I really want to do that, but it's too big a job, or I could just do with somebody to bounce some ideas off because it's just you, then again, come and get in contact with us. We can help with that with kind of some of our duo and quattro sessions. They're not expensive. And if it means that you've got a senior marketer who's kind of asking you difficult questions or challenging while you're making decisions, again, more than happy to help with that. So you need to review and learn. And then you need to really think and identify your most profitable marketing channels. So as part of that kind of what have we done, what has worked, what hasn't, have a look at what has been more successful. So one of the exercises I like to do is when I look down at kind of at the end of the year of kind of, so where our leads have come from, I actually do the journey back. Is it from a referral? Is it from an event? Is it from some social media? Is it from, an advert? And I basically do that exercise for every lead, whether we've won them or not, but I do that exercise so that you get a real kind of picture of actually quite a lot has come from that. Quite a lot has come from me going to that show, or quite a lot has come from these three key kind of, sort of people that are in my network who really kind of are my sales team. They refer us. And so have a think about the different marketing channels that you've got, and then basically work out which ones are successful. And when you're doing the planning, dedicate more of your marketing budget towards those channels that are working best for you. And it might not be what you think the sales team are going to like to hear, in all honesty, but really be honest with it. Sort of look at it very, very critically. Review all of your activity. So what channels are your current customers using, as well as what are your prospects using? Have a think about, sort of which ones are the best use of your time and money. So if you're all of a sudden being stretched, for example, across 6 different social media channels, be really honest. Do you need to be on all 6 of them? Probably don't. If you're thinking about how many events you do in a year, do you need to be at all of them, or could you be a bit more strategic about it? Can you be cleverer about actually when you're buying stuff in, that you're buying it for a longer period of time, so therefore the spend is spread more evenly? So do that exercise as well. Now, I thought it'd be really, really interesting to put up here a bit about marketing budgets, and we will talk about some figures in a moment. But there are obviously some industries where there is a lot more marketing needed. It's a lot more competitive. If you're in a sort of more of a niche market, you might not find that actually there's as much as much competition, so you don't have to shout and do as much to actually get your profile out there. And what I would say about this is it's a really difficult question to answer, because every business is different. As I mentioned, not everybody's got huge amounts of money to spend. There are different aims, different objectives that you want to achieve with your marketing. But this is just, I thought, a really interesting snapshot, and there is a link in there of kind of what the percentage of the overall budget marketing spend is. So you can see, you know, consumer packaged goods, consumer services much, much higher than perhaps kind of manufacturing, right down at the bottom with 8%. As a rule, we'd sort of say about 5%, but I'll come on to that in a moment. So what I do want you to think, and sometimes again, this is one of those difficult conversations, is thinking about marketing as an investment. For some people in the organization, not saying who, but it is seen as a cost. It's just a cost, it's just a number. But marketing does this really, really clever thing if you're doing it well, where you have got a sales kind of message, but you've also got the brand kind of message that needs to go out. So be clever with your annual budget. Break your budget into campaigns or to quarters if that's easier. But make sure that there is also a sum for corporate brand building. And what I mean by that is that stuff that is part of your brand DNA. The stuff that sits kind of wider, the bits where you are thought leader rather than it being product or service focused. And ensure that that corporate brand building budget runs annually, is longer term, and I'll come on to why. Now, the other thing about corporate brand building is that it can tie into other initiatives in the business. So, for example, I mentioned earlier about you might want to do a big recruitment campaign, and actually you might want to use your corporate brand building to work with the HR team to actually work on a campaign. You might want to focus on environmental and social governance, ESG kind of issues, and show the kind of company that you are, what makes you you, what's your culture like. Very, very important, actually, if you're doing kind of recruitment. But actually, by working on those campaigns with your colleagues, you may actually be able to get money from other parts of the business. You might be able to work and collaborate and actually share the cost of things. So again, have that conversation. It all ties back into those kind of main aims of what the business wants to be doing on the longer term. And think about also the long-term investment for brand awareness. That is actually what will work harder for you in future tough economic times. Sales, you know, that can be affected by kind of other stuff going on in the market. Actually, it's the brand bit. You know, when things are tough, people look for brands that they know that they can trust and that they know are going to be there for the long run, particularly if it's a higher cost purchase that might have some kind of support contract tied in with it. You know, you don't want to buy something and actually think, oh, brilliant, well, I get that and I get the support for 3 years. And actually in 3 years, that business is gone. Now, I know that there are businesses that go out of business and for all sorts of reasons, but that is still a really, really critical component of actually how you use your marketing to build trust, particularly in tough times, particularly focusing on the brand building and the sort of longer term work. So I just wanted to put up my favorite graph of the kind of shorter term sales campaigns, if you like, that are going up and down in red, which can be broken down into different chunks of time, and then this sort of smoother, longer term blue line there, that's the brand building. Now, why are these important? Well, if you are doing really successful marketing, you are doing short term and long term marketing plans. And that's because they do dovetail into each other. What happens is you might find that actually short term sales work better once a brand is kind of more established, it's more respected, it's more recognized. So long-term marketing creates brand equity, it influences future sales, it does the emotional priming job, it ties into those bigger issues, and it's a much more of a sort of a brand focus, a company focus. Short-term sales campaigns exploits the brand equity that you've built over time. It generates sales then and there, not in the future. That could be the case where they have got some, but you know, think of it from a campaign point of view. It has much more persuasive messages, and it has usually a product or a service focus. So you're buying this particular product from this company. The company is the brand. rather than it just being all about the product. Having those two work together is a dream, but in tough times, the short term is much more volatile. The long term is what you're looking for to sustain your kind of growth and your kind of market presence. The other thing as well to have a think about when you're doing this kind of reviewing and planning the rest of it is having a look at what your competitors are doing. If your competitors are pulling back their marketing to save money, there is actually a huge opportunity for you to grow into the space and make connections with existing and new customers and take some of that market share, which sounds bonkers, you know, actually when things are tough, spend more. Actually, if you can take market share and make your brand, your longer term brand, more visible, more out there, be more trusted, then actually that's a really good win. So have a look and see what they're doing, what sort of channels they're on, what they're trying to do. Do some competitor analysis, you know, so that you, I always think it kind of ties into doing a bit of a sort of SWOT analysis, and it's a really good exercise to do to just make sure that you're not stale and that you haven't just gone kind of a bit like, yeah, everybody assumes we do this and this is, you're not seen as kind of the exciting dynamic kind of company that you perhaps, or you probably are if you're still in business, to be fair. The other thing as well is I'd like you to think about your audience. Now, everything we do, we try and make customer centric. That's obviously fairly crucial, you know, listening to customer, reacting to their needs, foreseeing their needs before they've even realised what they are. But particularly in tough times, again, your existing customers should be an easier marketing win because they already have a relationship with you. So have a look for, with your marketing plan, completely new prospects, but also have a think about people that you've perhaps worked with in the past that have stopped working with, or how you can upsell to existing customers, because you've already done half the job of that kind of, you know, sort of outreach and kind of trying to, you know, sort of attract them to work with you. So just make sure that you're actually thinking about, when you're looking at your marketing activities, what things are for new prospects, what ones are for existing, because again, you might be able to be a bit savvier about the kind of marketing activities that you're doing that covers off across both those, or that you actually might be able to actually tweak them so that you actually have got an offering or marketing asset that can be used for both. And then, and I love doing this, is one of my favorite jobs, but profile your customers. Now, there's a really, really key thing here. I've put take two customers. Your most profitable, the one that you make the most margin with, and the one that you absolutely love working with. They might happen to be the same, and if they are, what a bonus, lucky old you. More often than not, they're not the same. But I think it's a really interesting exercise to review your marketing activity for both as part of your plan, see how you would attract them, work out which type you would like to attract more of. You know, do you want you know, 3 that are more profitable, but actually 6 are more fun with over the year, you know, that's what your kind of blend is, or is it the other way round? But also, I think it's a really good exercise to do, and it's often one of those exercises that I think fits well into when you're thinking about your marketing strategy, is, are they actually as profitable as you think they are? So what are the costs associated with them both? You know, you might have a client that is your largest client, but actually it costs you more to service it. You have to be there and present more. You have to do more reporting. You have to, whatever it might be. So just have an, you know, sort of a bit of a think about that as well. I think it's quite a good exercise to do when you're doing your marketing strategy, because it just, when you're looking at costs, you know, you might have something that you think, oh yeah, well, that's what we're going to do. That's absolutely a no-brainer. But actually, it might not be the best use of your budget to be attracting the wrong type of customer. So have a think of that as well. I mentioned earlier about the 5% rule. So the general rule of thumb in the marketing world is that you should aim to spend between 2 to 5% of your sales revenue on marketing. And that's been based on years of previous marketing experience and feedback from successful companies. And you can have a look at the link. There's loads of information on that particular link. It's a really good site. But also, again, if this is one of those conversations that you're finding is really difficult with your senior team, and you think having a sort of senior marketer in to come and make the argument with you, then come and have a conversation with us. More than happy to do that. The most important thing I thought on this slide, though, is this: to maintain current brand awareness and visibility, the total revenue is 5%. To grow your market share, they're saying 10%. So actually, when you have a think about what you're trying to do and those future business aims, if your senior team are saying, okay, we want this and this and this, and actually we're going to cut your budget, you need to be able to fight your corner, and you need to be able to use these figures or go back to them and say, that's not going to work, and this is why. So really, really fight for your budget. Have done your homework about what you are being measured on yourself as the marketing team or the marketing person, to make sure that actually you've got the tools to be able to do the job that they want you to do. And I think, that whole having that conversation up front about future business aims and spend all kind of tie in with each other. Don't just sort of think, oh, well, I'm going to get the same as last year, and that's that. If the aim of the business is completely different, or is to expand market share, you are going to need more marketing budget. That's the bottom line. So be confident and go for it. So just quickly a little bit about when you're doing your marketing planning and kind of what you have identified, your customer, and whether they're existing or whether they're new, and whether you've got plans for both of those. Have a think about your evergreen assets. And what I mean by these are the marketing materials, if you like, that have longevity. So I've just put a few up here of the ones I think are really, really quite key, that don't tend to date, that seem to have legs, that will kind of last if you're clever about them. So case studies, fantastic for kind of new customers, for building your brand, for showing kind of, sort of what it's like to work with you, how you help customers solve challenges. They can also be used for existing customers to upsell and stuff like that. So they're a really brilliant investment. Video also, it's growing the amount of people that are using video. But what I would say about it is, have a think about what you want the video to do. There may be, something that you can do on a smartphone for certain things. If you are doing kind of professional video and you're having a videographer in, and for some things I would absolutely recommend that over doing something on a smartphone, then make sure you've done the work up front. Actually really think about the brief, think about what you want the video to do, because it may well be that actually you spend a little bit more on that first shoot and the filming and stuff, and there's a bit more time in the editing to give you some videos that will run for longer and will fit in a sort of in different campaigns for longer. So really kind of think up front before you do it, otherwise it can be quite costly. Branded merchandise, and I will hold up my beautiful lovely mug here, because obviously we are tea addicts at Padua. What I would say is, have a think about if you're going to do some branded merchandise, or you're going to do some events, try and tie it into the longer term brand awareness focus, rather than just being sales. And also, if you know that that is going to be something that you're working for in the long, have a look and see, because it may well be that again you can spread the costs across different financial years or within your budget. So if you get sort of extra printed of mugs, but you know that you're going to use them across this year and next financial year, then actually when you're coming to budgeting and showing how much you've spent and how it's working, then that actually might be better use. Digital content, I put ebooks, guides, how-to guides, all of those we've learned from the pandemic, although obviously it's content people we knew beforehand, but they are much you've got a lot more agility there to be able to update them. They aren't expensive. You can create them quite quickly. So make sure that you've got digital content in there. And also, again, how-to guides, ebooks, as long as there isn't like a massive change in legislation or a massive change in product technology or a massive change in your product naming conventions, actually quite a lot of that content will be able to be used over and over and over again in different campaigns. Virtual events, again, just the cost. I mean, I know lots of people are up for doing kind of more face-to-face stuff, ourselves included. We've done a couple this year since things have sort of opened up again. But actually, for some virtual events, even if it's a, a roundtable webinar, a virtual talk, we've got a client who's doing virtual book reading in a couple of weeks. All of those actually aren't as expensive as building a stand, taking time out of the office, having all the staff manning the stand. And so just see if there are any sort of virtual events that you can fit into your marketing plan that might make sure that you can still do the sort of brand awareness and also the short-term sales stuff, but actually might not cost the earth. I've put on here website updates. What I mean by that is making sure that you've got the flexibility to be able to change, particularly messaging on the homepage in the CMS, and also to do some blog posts and maybe some landing pages, but you might be able to do that in other ways. And if you haven't got the skills to be able to change that in your CMS, just make sure that in your budget you have got some time in there for the technical team that you might need to use to be able to do that for you. Because it's a much more effective, cost-effective way of updating a website than a brand new website. And I know a brand new website is lovely, but it's also, let's face it, the most painful thing to do that takes forever and a day. I don't know one yet that has not had its challenges in 26 years of working in comms. So there we are. So yes, website updates. Also infographics and imagery. And the reason I'm saying that is it might be more effective depending on what kind of shots you're using for ads and for social and stuff like that, to actually get your own photo shoot. So you've got the images, you own them, rather than actually spending out. I know that there are an awful lot of royalty-free stock imagery sites and stuff like that. But if you really want to kind of own your own images and stuff, that it might be an idea for you to put that in as an investment again, because it will run across lots of different campaigns as you're doing your planning. And email marketing campaigns. And the reason I put it on here is because they, again, once you've got them up and running and you've got templates and you've got stuff, great, absolutely fantastic. But make sure that you've also got the time in there. And if it's not the time, then the actual sort of resource or the person who could come in and help with maybe doing a bit more work on customer segmentation, tagging, and really making sure that they are working as effectively as they can do. And build data collection and analysis into your 2023 marketing plan. So now there are so many tools that will give you analytics and give you some insights in how your marketing activity is working across email marketing, across your websites, and there's an awful lot of kind of data sometimes to look at, and you might not be the best person to put it all together. You might need somebody to come in and kind of just help you with that. Or if you have got it, great, make sure you use it. Even if you're thinking, God, I don't know, there's like analytics from this, analytics from this, analytics from this, aim for making maybe 3 to 5 small increments in the way that you actually collect data and how you review it, because that's 3 to 5 times smarter really next year that you'll be able to see how things are working. And any questions, we're here, happy to help. Hopefully that has helped a little bit. As I mentioned, we've got our Dolce Vita services, and our Duo and our Quattro service is a smaller amount of time. They can be used as a one-off. So if you're really struggling and you think, God, I could just do with having a kind of a chartered marketer here to work on this with me, just to give it the focus or give it the kind of the gravitas that so that I can go and ask for some more money or whatever, then please reach out. We're more than happy to help. And then next month's topic is the second Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. We're looking at, should I do my marketing or outsource? But basically, we're having a bit of a chat about what jobs are better being done in-house, what ones are jobs that you could outsource, and also talking about what it's like working with an agency as well, if you've never done that. So please join us. There is register on our event page on our website, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much. Bye.